Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Saturday, December 5th, 2015. Black Wolf here at the microphone of the Lynn-Life. Ra is sleeping in the back room. Betty Jean is at the microphone of the Jamie-Body-Mind. Asha is there with her in some similar configuration. Other teammates in other aspects of the physical dimension. Interesting.
That's true.
How do we relate to this? It's possible we have some teammates who are new to the team, and some of them have gone back upstairs to gather supplies but are coming back down. So it's possible that for the moment one or two of us are upstairs.
That's true.
However, the rest of us are in the physical dimension and in the subatomic from the perspective of the spirit world viewers. We're going to go with the background intention, which is to do what is ours to do right now in all dimensions, to manifest the divine plan. The data very clearly showing what's needed is to provide a collective restart. Wiser minds above, knowing that nothing happens without a deadline, they have set the deadline of January 17th, 2017 as the date by which our work is to provide that collective restart. And knowing that a large deadline doesn't happen without smaller deadlines leading up to it, we have a series of nested deadlines. The next one is the winter solstice, which happens at roughly midnight Eastern Standard Time on December 21st. Planet Earth Dating. With that, it begins. It's possible the deadline is by the start of winter, which is the winter solstice.
That's true. Well, we've gotten a lot of messages about the long winter and
The
getting
long
through winter.
Yes.
That's true.
Okay. It would be really good if we knew what the deadline was for. Dig down to
What we're supposed to dig down to.
by the start of winter.
That's true.
Probably the supplies.
That's true.
Dig down to the supplies
By the
start of winter. That would make sense.
That's true.
Luce, look at this. He seems to think that that's what it is.
That's true.
Oh, that implies there are supplies down there.
That makes sense.
Well, let's dig. I think those who don't want to know the truth flung
Flung
away.
That's my story too.
The
That's
door is
basic.
always
Step one.
basic.
That's
And the
true.
door is always open.
That's true.
This isn't something.
It's not an advanced question.
No.
Do you want to know what's
Do you
true?
want to know
Yes
what's
or
true?
No? You don't
If
want to know
not,
what's true?
This is not
super
your
not
right
the place for you.
Boom,
That's
boom,
true.
boom. My attention is being brought to Asha. Asha.
That's true.
Asha, can you hear me? Is she aware of Kosa's work in the subatomic?
Yes, I think so.
I think what I'm supposed to do is help Asha understand that there is never going to be anyone taking her place. That she...
Well, it does feel like a fear she has.
Yes. But Asha is like the first love for the Lynn-Life, so to speak. You know, she was the first higher dimension presence who came in, and she was here all alone. Asha was here all alone.
That's true.
No other higher dimension presences anywhere close by for 20 years.
That's true.
And no one can ever take her place, ever.
No, she's crying a little. That's true. I think that was what she
She's
was waiting to hear.
Yes. No one can ever take her place. However, Asha is worn down just as Ra is worn down.
That's true.
And this gift of Kosa coming into our lives, when Ra and Asha are both worn to nubs, it seems like a divine miracle.
Well, that's true. She hadn't looked at it that way.
Yes. Kosa is a little like Asha,
That's
and
true.
a little like Luce,
And a little
and
like Ra.
and a little like Ra,
That's
and a
true.
little like Marcos.
That's true.
And how wonderful. How wonderful.
That's true. Asha's nodding. And it's true, she was feeling a little threatened by Kosa's appearance. And Kosa doing work that Asha defines as her kind of work.
It is her kind of work. And it's your kind of work too, but
That's true.
somebody else needs to be doing it because Asha is out of commission.
That's true.
And somebody needs to be here holding strong space
That's
in
true.
the dreamy body mind.
And Asha's saying, I feel so bad that I'm laid up, kind of.
Well, would you like to convalesce here in the Lynn-Life for a little bit?
Yeah, I really would.
Okay. Come on.
I think she stepped over.
I think she did, and the metaphor I see is of two kind of like hospital beds side by
That's
side,
true.
and Ra and Asha kind of holding hands.
That's true.
You know, friendly holding hands,
Yeah.
supporting each other like brother and sister might do.
That's true.
Here we are. We're going to get well together.
That's true.
Let's do this thing called recovering.
That's true.
And now she's seems to be going to sleep, just like Ra
That's true.
went to sleep. It's
Finally can rest.
finally, I can rest without worrying that the vessel is going to be pulled into the ditch
That's true.
in 10 minutes.
That's true.
Finally, I can rest.
Hearing the clanky machine sounds coming up from in the mind.
I hear it too. It sounds comforting.
It does. It doesn't sound bad.
No, they're in some kind of rhythm
Boom.
that sounds like it could be made somewhat smoother, but it's definitely better than it has been for a really long time.
That's true.
And I hear other voices, and they're voices that are talking cooperatively. They aren't arguing, and
That's true.
they aren't arguing with the instructions, and they aren't arguing with each other. I can feel that there's still doubt present.
That's true. And the doubt itself doesn't seem to be a problem, but it does seem to create spaces for lies to pile in and not clear fully.
Well put. Let's bifurcate for all those who actually want to know what's true. And then we discover it. If we actually want to know what's true, we don't sit there silently doubting. That's actually
true.
against the Search for Truth community rules. That is not allowed behavior.
That's
If
true.
you have a doubt, you're required to speak it out loud, bring the topic to the conversational forefront, and then work it out in community to discover what's actually going on. Those are the rules, the Search for Truth rules. They're posted everywhere.
That's true.
We mean it. We really mean it. If you don't want to live by the rules, that's okay. There's all the rest of the all that is for you. Go away. This is for people, sentient presences of all varieties, who actually want to know what's going on for themselves, inside themselves, and in the world around them. Well, first things first, we haven't finished getting the pillars' sides straight, going straight down as if laser beam cut,
That's true.
all the way through all these levels of the subatomic down to that body of water. So first things first, let's finish the assignment that we already have on the table. And second, Drill Bit is still searching. Now she needs more power. We haven't been supporting both Drill Bit and Probe
That's true.
effectively. We were used to supporting Probe, and we were doing that poorly.
That's true.
And now we've basically doubled the effort that it takes to support these searching devices, because Probe is searching up for the highest concentration of truth and integrity.
That's true.
And Drill Bit is searching down for the deepest concentration of truth and integrity.
That's true.
And it takes double the amount of energy and questioning and intention to drive that process, to power the process. And we stink at this. We're
That's
not doing
true.
very well. So to those who are doubting, here's what you can do, is you can start to direct this energy of doubt into a blast furnace and burn it, to just say, what now? What now? Where is the deepest concentration of truth and integrity? Rather than saying, what do we do about this? And not really asking the question.
That's true.
To actually ask the question, and that's what powers Drill Bit. A real question, not a rhetorical question said in a whiny tone.
That's true. A lot of them are clearing out now. They're going, well, I don't want to do that.
Right. they just want to whine. Go away.
That's true. I just want to whine.
I just want to whine. Well, party down. Go have a wine fest.
A wine party.
A wine party.
That's
Someplace
true.
else. Have your wine fest someplace else.
That's true. It's quieter down there now, but I do still hear the machine clanks.
I hear the machine clanks, and I hear somebody who seems to be asking a real question.
That's true.
Where is Pan?
Ah, that's true. And I see nodding heads behind that
And
person.
now people, many voices taking up this question,
That's
and their hearts
true.
are sad and hurting, and they love
Where is
Pan.
he?
Where's Pan?
Where is Pan?
Where is Pan? All I see are big arrows pointing
Down.
straight down,
That's
and so
true.
it's possible he's underneath that big body of water. I know
That's
that
true.
Drill Bit is continuing to search down.
That's true.
She's trying to get to the bottom of the body of water. Maybe she's already down to the bottom of it.
I think she's down to the bottom of it, but not below it, really.
No, she's kind of in the mud, and
That's
she's.
true.
But the answers are down there. Everything is down there. We have
That's
to
true.
get down there. But in order to get down there, first things first, we have to finish this stage. We don't have our walls going straight down.
That's true.
Our pillar isn't finished at this level. So let's let Drill Bit do her job
That's
while we
true.
do our job. And maybe by the time we get this job finished, Drill Bit will have broken through to the next whatever is there to be broken through to. And I know that the answer is down. I don't know where Pan is, and we all miss him.
That's true.
We all love him and value him and miss him.
Maybe he's where the supplies are. Stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened, and we found Pan with supply caches before.
That's true.
He has delivered old treasure chests
chests.
to
That's
us
true.
and said, "Here, I found these
That's
things."
true. He has been where the supplies were before.
Yes.
And he's noticeably absent. And the supplies are noticeably absent. And the arrows all point down.
The arrows all point down. Luce is talking, and he's talking about the supplies that he's found and the supplies that he hasn't found.
That's true.
He has the vibrations kind of in front of him on a spectrogram showing what is needed.
That's true.
And he's found a lot of papayas,
Yes.
but no gold.
That's true.
Whatever they represent. Like
That's
you were
true.
saying earlier, Betty
Coming to the
Jean.
new world.
Yes.
Looking for gold. And we found all these papayas, which we don't have in the old world. And it's very exciting. We still don't have the gold, nor do we know where the gold is.
Nor is there actually any gold in the Caribbean. The Caribbean has
That's
papayas,
true.
but there is no gold in the Caribbean. It isn't there. It
That's
isn't
true.
there.
That's true. There are plenty of papayas.
Yes.
But there isn't gold
There
in
is
the
no gold
Caribbean.
there.
That's true.
They were looking for a route to India,
That's
and
true.
they happened to discover, oh, gracious, there are other continents here.
That's true.
Huh.
Look at that.
Look at that. Again, Luce is talking about the supplies that he's found here in the subatomic, and he means in those deeper layers,
Yes.
and the supplies that he has not found. And he's saying he doesn't know what's underneath that underground ocean either, but that he knows what's between his home up in whatever big levels of the physical they were operating in,
Yes.
and where he's now working, which is down there in the subatomic under deeper treasures in what we're calling rescue zone.
That's true.
And he says it's nowhere in the physical dimension so far,
That's true.
but that his information told him it was in the physical dimension.
Yes.
So the only thing that's left to work through are smaller levels, so to keep going. Well, it's actually bigger levels too, Luce. There are bigger levels, but the arrows are all pointing down and none of them are pointing up. I'm just pointing out that your statement isn't actually true.
He's nodding.
We all want to think that our level of physical presence is the biggest level and that we aren't subatomic to anything and that everything that's subatomic means smaller than we are, but that isn't true. If we look up, we can always find bigger and bigger and bigger
That's
and bigger
true.
presences. That's how we found you, for example.
That's true.
But I agree, all the arrows point down.
That's true.
Oh, I see why that came up in an error correction, because it was a false thinking. It was a mistake in Luce's thinking.
That's true.
I think what we're supposed to do is offer Kosa a shelter to sleep in, basically, when she needs to rest, so she doesn't have to go all the way
back
home.
up. It's true.
You are very, very welcome
You can come here. That's true.
You can
You're very welcome here.
Very welcome here, and this is the cleanest space that we have to offer
That's
you in
true.
our community, and you're very welcome to
That's
share
true.
it. And we also say to Ulysses, please continue your preparations to come in. We can feel what you bring to the table, and we know that there is space for that.
That's true.
Please continue. And to Luce, please continue. And to that larger presence of Ra, yes, please continue.
That's true. Yes, please.
Yes, please. We can't neglect Probe, and she's
true.
limping because we're stinking
But supporting
at
her
supporting
effectively.
both of them effectively.
That's
We're
true.
really stinking at it, and I acknowledge that I'm stinking
I can
at
see
that, and that I need to do better. And now would be a really good time to do better at it.
That's true.
Well, let's ask up right now. How high do we have to reach to find a presence of true integrity? There's all these people down there that are asking rhetorical questions.
That's true.
The Search for Truth community is not a place for rhetorical questions.
That's true.
Maybe we haven't made that clear enough. No rhetorical questions allowed here. We have a ban on rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions are against the rules.
That's true.
If you find yourself asking a rhetorical question, you can turn it into a real question.
That's true.
Actually ask it for real. If you hear somebody else asking a rhetorical question, you can encourage them to turn it into a real question. Or if it sounds like a question that you yourself have curiosity about, you can ask it as a real question. But
That's
there are
true.
no rhetorical questions allowed. Rhetorical questions are a disgusting sham of a question, and they make things a lot worse.
That's true.
They're hazards on the course. No rhetorical questions. It seems to kind of work a big blobby icky thing up and out.
That's true.
Maybe we're done now.